Yes, yes.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever geography you are in. This is Pranav Goa Thakurta from EDU TV with 16 lakh eyes in all five continents. And today we are honored to have the famous Miss Sani, Miss Neeti Bhalla Sani, Principal, Mayo College Girls' School, Ajmer, the most prestigious girls' school in the country. Thank you so much for joining us, ma'am.
Thank you, Pranavji. Thank you so much for inviting me and Anjuji to be here. It's absolute pleasure to be here with all of you. Thank
It's a
you.
pleasure, our pleasure, ma'am. I know you are having MUN and more than 300 girls from outside or have also come out here
Girls and
with
boys
you.
both. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out time for us. And with us from the higher education industry, the famous Miss Devaskar, Miss Anju Devaskar, who is the director outreach of Flame University, Pune, which is the first liberal university in the country. And I congratulate both the young girls for their advocacy for school and universities and industries also. And with much, I won't take much time. I'll request Miss Anju Devaskar to take the conversation further. Over to
Thank
you,
you
Anju.
so much. Thank you. Thank you. Firstly, Neeti ma'am, it's absolute privilege to meet you. Okay, and especially someone who's worked in education. And the work speaks not through just your accolades, and but also the countless young lives that you've changed. And
You.
I think Mayo College Girls School is one of the prestigious schools that we all appreciate and look at. But this one-on-one conversation, I think, is going to help me understand a few things that I've been really keen to learn about. And so today, the topic that we're going to be talking about is transitioning from school to a university. Now, while we look at this, it's just the excitements that are discussed normally, like hey, you're going from a school to a university, but I know there's lots and lots of background noises in the head, those questions that keep coming up to parents, to students themselves. They're very very, how do I say that, they're extremely sensitive sometimes. They're very a lot of anxiety is there and things like that. So I think today, with my background from the university and yours from a school, I think we're just going to touch upon few things from a school leader's perspective. And precisely, I'm just going to be talking about just four main questions. One would be, how are the students moving from academic independence to self-directed learning? Because see, college isn't about just settling down there, but also, coming ready with,
Those
you know,
skills which are needed.
skills
Absolutely.
that, yeah. And, the research says that it consistently shows that the biggest academic shock students face is a shift from structured teacher-led learning to self-directed learning, studying. And university demands a very metacognitive cognitive skill. Mostly students haven't been probably formally taught because they're in a very safe and conformed sort of environment. So my question to you is, are we preparing students just through the curriculum teaching methods genuinely for them to develop these self-directed learning, or are we still too focused on just directly feeding them the content for the exams and results?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anjuji, for this question. And also, it's a very pertinent aspect that we're talking today about transitioning from schools to universities. I'll take this question in two parts. So I'm going to talk about what we do at MCGS, at Mayo College Girls School, and then also in general talk about how schools are preparing and what should they actually be doing. You rightly said that it's the shift is from just finishing syllabus and sitting for your board exams and getting those nice certificates at the end of 12th grade, to genuinely learning and applying that learning in their real life. And that is what the university demands. And students are moving constantly from their comfort zone into a zone which is the real kind of a real world, where they will experience new challenges, they'll experience new opportunities, and they'll have to navigate their way through that. At Mayo College Girls School, we very firmly believe in that there are two curriculum that run. One is inside the classroom and the other one is outside the classroom. And what they learn inside is very academic oriented, but what they learn outside the classroom is all the application of what they've been learning inside the classroom. So these two curriculum run simultaneously. So we have a school which is from morning till even afternoon inside the classrooms, and then the school starts with outside, which is all sorts of activities and clubs that the students take part in, sports, very rigorous sports programs that they take part in. So it's a balance of both. And I think at our school, and not just our school, but a lot of boarding schools like ours, we are preparing students with the right kind of skills which are required for them to navigate their way in the university. Basic life skills, the very basis of all the skills, emotional resilience. A lot of students in universities feel so lost and they don't know where and how to move about, what should they be doing next, because they're so used to being at home, parents guiding, navigating their way. Here it's like a mini version of students getting prepared. So yeah, skill development is one very important aspect that schools must focus on, be it their social emotional skills, be it their communication skills, their skills to manage time. There's nobody telling you when and how you have to do things. You just have deadlines in universities. Unlike school, a teacher's following up with you. Something very interesting, and on a personal note, my son said when he went to university, he said, the biggest change I saw was the emotional shift that happened, because at home and in school, I had teachers who knew me and who patted my shoulder and who kept pushing me for things and who congratulated me on my wins. He said in university, it was just me doing it for myself. I patted my shoulder each time I had a good win. And I gave myself my own shoulder to cry on when I didn't win something, or when
Wow, that's
when I
big.
failed at something. So that's the very key part, that, we need to
Yeah.
build them emotionally, we need to build them mentally, physically, and to be able to navigate that world. So, schools, are they able to do it? Schools which are just cramming into marks and subjects, I think they are not still there with the skills. Though
Mm.
NEP says build these skills, but I doubt how much. I can for sure vouch for schools like ours, all the boarding schools, a lot of other new age schools, they are building that curriculum outside the classroom as well.
Yeah, because I don't think so. In the university, no one's chasing them for, their personal assignments, submissions, reminder to study, nothing. And also, nobody's giving them their clothes on the bed, what you have to wear, what you have to eat. And
Precisely.
suddenly, you've got to manage life, and then you've got to manage your work, which is your academics. Yes, yes. And I think because at Flame is a residential, university. So, and that's where I work. And, the students who come here mostly come for the first time out, leaving their homes.
The
And I think,
homesickness.
yes, so the academic rigor and everything is, I think, fine, because in the first year they're not, they're not challenged so much. But what you correctly said, it takes them time to settle, make it their home, make that hostel room the home that you're going to come back to every evening. What are you going to do after that? Making friends, and also, yes, it's very important. And I think that's where we see the students coming from residential schools have that edge, because
Make
they've been at least aware of living like that prior to the university. The other thing we want to discuss today is the mental health and emotional well-being during the transition. And the research says, especially the World Health Organization and multiple other studies flag the first year of university as a peak period for anxiety, depression, loneliness, and loss of familiar social network, identity confusion, and other primary drivers. Now, given that they're going to leave the existing setup and come to a new one, I think it can be as easy or as challenging as you want it to be. But just that no one talks about these things also as a part of, exit program from the school. And I think that would be really nice for us to, like, the schools and university to talk together and, prep them for that. Though we have a system at the university, when they come, we divide them in small groups and have a peer mentor, somebody who's just a year senior who's lived this maybe just not long ago. And, they become a little more comfortable with their own age group. So we do that to some extent. But my question is, should schools be having these honest conversations also about these emotional difficulties that the students face through this transition? And because, like I just mentioned, we're just talking about excitements, but how do we talk about this not scaring the students? And what are your views on that?
I know it's very important and essential, that the students need to realize that with freedom comes responsibility. It's not just freedom that they're enjoying, and for sure, schools must talk about the emotional strengthening, the resilience that they need to. Adversity quotient. Do the students have that or not? Are they able to face unfamiliar situations and fight back? So yes, you're right that not with fear, but with more general conversation. So what we do, and I'll share what we already do about it. Of course, our girls are very tuned into, and they know what to expect in universities. One thing which is very big change, that's a big jump that comes for them, is the freedom. So in school they are in a contained space, and in a university they are in an open environment. So how do you navigate through that freedom? How responsibly will you manage your time? How will you manage all the aspects of your learning, your academics, your non-academics, all those things? But we also have a program which our alumni organize each year, which is called Igniting Minds. And all our alumni, they come back, a lot of them, and from different areas, from their, if they've been an entrepreneur, they come back from there. If they've been in fields of, civil services, various fields, they come and talk to our girls. And in that, there is one group which is still in university. So students who've gone out to universities in the last year, 2 years, 3 years, they come back and talk to the students that what to expect in the university, what did they face as challenge, how did they navigate those challenges, and what were the wow moments, what were they. So when they have these open conversations, I think it just sets the stage right for our students. But I do hope that as we go forward, if we can have better collaborations with universities, maybe have visit to the university for this. We do have some kind of orientation program, especially with overseas, because that's a very new, different domain for the students when they go out of India. So we do, like with Australian couple of universities, we take them on a summer program. They do short internships in about 4, 5 different universities, 2 2 day little programs, just to get oriented to those. I mean, within India also, we could have something like that with universities,
Absolutely.
where, our students are invited. I know that Jindal or one of them, they do some sort of a program
Correct.
like that. But
Yeah.
summer programs would be great opportunity, because winters is a time when they have their board exams starting, but summer is a great time and opportunity for our students
So,
to
so
explore.
we do have, I think all good universities would have summer programs. We call it Flame University Summer Immersion Program, and the students come and stay here for good 2 weeks, sorry, 10 days.
Lovely.
And the same faculties are teaching them. They're living in the same hostels, and the whole idea, the way it's been designed, is number one, to explore the liberal education concept, because how do you blend a psychology into data science? How do you use data science into finance? And, like, some what Flame is actually known for. But beside that, we also make sure that we don't take too many students from one school. So, a cohort of 150 that we take, in 2 batches, they are, interacting with students from so many different schools and boards and everything. So I think that gives them great exposure, and we'd love to share some more information.
That's lovely. I know, I think that's a great
Yes.
opportunity. Like you said, that they need to at least immerse a little bit into that course to
Absolutely.
understand what it is about. Everybody talks about liberal arts, but how do they merge and how do they come together is in real time when they go and see it. So it's a great thing. Of course, students need, when they go to university, right in school time, they need to have a voice, they need to have ownership of what they do. And again, I'll keep giving you examples of what we do, and a lot of schools are doing these things.
Correct.
Like, for example, we are currently, right now, as we speak, we have the MUN running, the MCGS MUN, which kind of kickstarts all the other MUNs in other schools, because this is the first in the beginning of the session. The session just started April for all the schools. And the girls, a cohort of team, the secretariat is formed by them. They decide the themes, they have mentors who guide them, but they do all the planning from logistics to who'll stay where. So that's a little,
It's
experience
a
of
big
learning to organize an event. And almost all inter-house events, all the other inter-school events and all are managed by students, are organized. I mean, if it's an inter-house music competition, it's the seniors who are guiding the juniors and practicing for it. You will not find teachers who are working in inter-house. I mean, they'll be there to guide them at the background, but forefront is always students. So I think those opportunities are great for them to build these skills, or all the life skills of being confident, of being
And you also earlier mentioned the learning in the class and outside the
outside.
class,
That's the outside class.
because I think what we always forget is the third teacher, which is the environment. And that environment has to be so cohesive and, something where students are given ample opportunities. And I think that's a great way to prepare students. And also, I think what you brought up was very interesting, that students, if the schools can also focus on making or guiding or sometimes nudging the students to go and talk to, the alumni or the current students of those universities. So we have about 50 odd students on the website who constantly are open to talking to prospective students and giving them an insider's
That's
view.
fantastic. That's
Yeah, so I think that's something that is really helps them, and they come little prepared. They at least know that, hey, I know XYZ from the second year, and the familiarity, I think, makes them a little more comfortable on that.
Ma'am, Neeti ma'am,
Yeah.
I wanted your advice on like what all schools and universities and even industries should do together in collaboration for all these transitions. I'm sure the students from preschool to primary school, there are transitions, then primary to middle school, there is a transition, then from middle school to senior school also transition. Further transition is universities and industries also, ma'am. Ma'am, what I have seen, noticed from school, because of there's so much of difference between schools and universities. In the first semester, the CGPA of the student goes down. So as you have taught, trained thousands of students, Niti ma'am, what is your advice and suggestion to industries and universities? How this smoothness can be improved and increased in these transitions?
Thank you, Pranabji. That's I think that's a wonderful area that one needs to develop. It's there but I feel that, like Anjuji was saying, it's in silos. Like, I didn't know that they have a wonderful summer immersion program, or I didn't know that they have some 50 alumni on their website who can offer and who can connect, with whom our students can connect. So some of these open dialogues between universities and schools and industries. As a school, I'm always looking for some kind of industrial connect with, for my students, some kind of internship programs which will just give
Right.
them that exposure and immersion into the outside world. So I think we need to have a very clearly defined pathway and have better connection between the schools and the universities, and more awareness sessions. We do have universities who come in and talk. I mean, even Flame comes in and talks to our students when we have these edu fairs and all. But just thinking kind on the
Yeah.
spot, maybe in a group of Flame professors, two three of them, some core
Great.
areas, come in and do a 2 1 day session for our students to have these open conversations and things like that.
Wonderful.
It will really help. I mean, those kind of open conversations and more collaboration is what we should be focusing on.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I
Excellent.
think these are the things where the students also feel comfortable. They trust us. They know that we are part of a big ecosystem, and this isn't that, okay, this chapter is over and now I'm just stepping into something different new. It's just becomes the
It's
ecosystem.
continuity for them. There's
Yeah.
continuity for them because they know some people. Um, I've actually already picked up on saying that you got some alumni who are on the website, so that's a great take for me.
Yes, yes.
Good
So,
one.
so connecting to this is my next, thoughts that I want to hear from you, and which is about social identity, belonging, and campus culture. Okay, and there's a research, Tinto's foundational retention theory. It's a theory, and more recent research shows that social integration, okay, the feeling of like you belong, is the single strongest predictor of whether a student will succeed at a university or not. Because we always say, even when students move to a hostel, that hostel can be anything, food can be anything, teachers can be anything, but if you make one good friend there, life becomes easy, right? Because we're all
I
social.
agree. I agree.
And now that we are living in a very, very digital kind of space, and the students have advantage, but also sometimes a disadvantage, I would
Correct.
say, because sometimes in person things take a back seat. So this is what the study says. And what I want to ask you is, how much do we talk to students about navigating diverse, unfamiliar social environments? And are we preparing them to build new communities from scratch? Because, like I said, you're uprooting here and you're getting into a completely new setup. And we are not talking about it. Some people just click on because they have the skills. Some keep struggling because they didn't know and it was a surprise. How about talking about not only their scores, their academics, that how do you become a part of a group? You may not be appreciated, or you may not appreciate someone, but sometimes you have to coexist. And I'm sure, again, you'll be doing many of these things because of the background of the school being a residential school, mentoring system and all that stuff. But generally, as a educator from school side, what do you think we should be doing for others who are listening to us?
In again in a residential school, this is not a problem because the students get uprooted from their homes. They come in, and I can actually just resonate with your thought because that's something that
Right.
we struggle with at a school level. When students come from different cities, we've got diversity, so way wide range of students, and exactly what happens in a university. Unlike a day school, which will have a cohort of students who are from that area and region,
Correct.
and so they're more inclined towards each other. I think schools should organize some sort of skill building programs, some sort of programs which will allow for more diversity. So they can be, when they take these students out of the school for excursions, for 4 day, 3 day, 4 day, 5 day. Again, going back to what NEP says, that bagless days. How are they utilizing it? Are they only utilizing those bagless days with their own group of students, or
Actually,
are
I
they?
have a slightly different idea on this.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
even if it means that, what happens is, because, ma'am, I've also spent almost 15 years in school before I joined the university. And what I felt was, and I was part of these things, we were very excited to take our students to different places and everything. But what I realized later on is that it's the same group of people in school and the same group of people going outside. So, it'll be really nice to have a consortium of maybe five schools where, thought leaders
Mix and go.
and mix them and send, and you'll see the difference 100%.
Absolutely.
Because what happens is, it just becomes like this a mob thinking. If I'm in the similar crowd, I'll laugh at the similar joke. I'll have a similar response to thing, and my expectations would be similar. So that similarity has to be
You have to
broken a
break
little
that.
bit.
Yeah, yeah. You have to
Yes.
break that chain and move into unfamiliar situations, unfamiliar people.
In a
That's
in a
why,
controlled risk, in a safe risk
yeah,
zone.
in a
Fear
yeah.
risk is good, but a safe risk for
Yeah, in a
students. Yeah.
safe risk or a controlled risk zone.
Yes,
You're
yes.
right on that. But no, that's true. But I don't know how many schools can really work on it, and how many.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we're talking about schools where there are schools where these
Right.
students go who can afford this kind of a program. There are
Correct.
schools where you can't, and so they are again just stuck with their own kind. Um, we as educators, and I think from the university level, have to work on bridging this. This is one of the biggest gaps.
Yeah,
How do you adapt to diversity? How do you
we'd
adapt
love
to
to
new
do this,
environment?
ma'am. If you, I mean, after this, I'd love to, talk about this. Maybe I can reach out to different schools and like, do something for students because that's really important. How do they
Yes,
bring people who they do not know
yes,
earlier and stay
very
with
right.
them,
Neeti
understanding?
ma'am,
In fact, the program that's happening, MUN, you've got 300 students from
Yeah,
across
my
the
that
God,
must
country
be a
who
great
are
opportunity.
here, and there are about 10 to 12 students from each school who are here, and they're not together in the same group. They are in
Correct,
different
correct.
groups. They're working, they're deliberating, they're discussing, arguing, agreeing to disagree, agreeing to agree as well. All that is happening at the moment. So yeah, that's true. That these are some of those forums. Yes,
Yeah.
Pranavji, you were saying something.
ma'am, we have an confederation called Global Confederation for Schools, Universities, and Industries. We have more than 2,800 schools from all across India, Middle East, North Africa, and now, ma'am, surprisingly, from different language, like from South America, also we are having a lot of things. In fact, tomorrow we have got a program of two schools, Indian school and a South American school, and their language is Spanish. But we did before also; it was doing wonderfully. And I request both of you. I was in Missouri last week. The student had majority of student had one question, 11th and 12th graders. That was, ma'am. I'll start with Neeti, ma'am. That was course versus college. What should this, ma'am, shortlist for course or the college? Over to you, Neeti.
I think it's important that they shortlist the course, what their heart lies in.
Absolutely.
And then the college will be a best place for them. But if they are only focused on a college, and if that college is not offering that course, it will not, it'll be counterproductive for them. So it
Wonderful,
should be
wonderful.
course
Anju,
always.
Yeah. So I
Anju.
think course over college, absolutely, because why do you go to a university to study something and something that you want to learn more? If that is taking a back seat, then I think the student will take little more time to figure out what next. Because so course versus college, I think course should be your
Course
first.
always.
But you
Wonderful,
cannot ignore
wonderful.
the college. Sometimes you may have a brilliant course and you don't set up in the ecosystem, that could also be detrimental. So I mean, you
Exactly.
have to be like little balanced, but course definitely the first.
Very right. Thank you so much, Mrs. Neeti Bhalla Saini, Principal, Mayo College, Girls School, Ajmer, for taking out time. And ma'am, I know you're very hard pressed with time, and but your advocacy to support students, parents across the world is tremendous.
Thank you.
Similarly, I am thankful to Ms. Anju Devaskar. She is always available for us in very short notice. She's also very hard pressed. She's traveling a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am. Neeti, ma'am, I'll come and see
Thank
you in
you.
Ajmer soon, and Anju, you
Totally.
also.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Pranavji,
I'll also
for
come and
this.
visit you, ma'am,
Yes,
definitely.
I'd like to extend that invitation to both of you to come to Ajmer.
I'll be there.
Thank you for having us here. It was wonderful to kind of think with like-minded educators and just talk about some very pertinent aspects of school
Yes,
life and post-school life. Thank you.
Thank you
yes.
so much,
And
ma'am. Have a gorgeous day.
and
Thank
both
you
the
so
young girls, there's a standing invitation for lunch or dinner with us whenever you are in
much.
Delhi.
Okay. Thanks, Pranav. Thank you.
Thank
हाँ
you.